What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel here from the Geek Speak Nation channel, and I'm here to bring you my review of Daredevil Season 2. So, Marvel's Daredevil was renewed for another season, and coming off the heels of Jessica Jones and its spectacular first season, Season 2 had a lot to live up to as compared to what Marvel's been doing with their Netflix universe. And to be fair, I love what they did with the first season of this show and establishing the characters. I think that Stephen DeKnight, the showrunner for Daredevil Season 1, did an excellent job at creating what started out as a slow burn season but ramped up into such a thrill ride and just a captivating crime story and a character piece for the character of Matt Murdock and Daredevil. So coming into Season 2 with Stephen DeKnight no longer being a part of Season 2 when it comes to being the showrunner, I was really concerned yet excited at the same time to see what they'd be offering us in Season 2. In Season 2, they deliver us with Punisher and Elektra and the concept of the hand and other elements. Not to get into spoilers yet, but I'd have to say that they delivered very well on Season 2 of Marvel's Daredevil. And I think what really makes it feel different is definitely the characters and the way they approach them and the pacing when it comes to Season 2 of Daredevil. I think when you compare Season 2 to Season 1, it is they're both character-driven stories, but something about Marvel's approach to Season 1 of Daredevil just felt slower, more methodical, and more focused. And I think that Season 2, they had a lot they wanted to try to cover and a lot they wanted to go for in different storylines. They cherry-picked from the comic books that they wanted to throw together in Season 2. And for the most part, it works very well. Despite having so many plot points, I think it is fairly focused very well for the most part, despite having some issues when you get towards the end of the series with wrapping up these plot points, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But overall, I really enjoyed Season 2, and like I said, it had to do with the pacing, but also the characters, and the new characters that they introduced this season of Punisher and Elektra were fantastic. I think Jon Bernthal's portrayal of Punisher is one of the best comic book adaptations I've ever seen an actor bring to life on a screen. It is phenomenal. He brings so much pathos and yet ferocity to the character. I see this character get on screen and I'm afraid of what he's going to do, but at the same time, I'm exhilarated and excited when I get to learn more about him. And when he goes into his backstory, it is deep, it is dark, and it is heartbreaking, but it's so enjoyable to see what the character of Frank Castle is in this show and his moral code and how that causes a dichotomy between him and Daredevil. And I think the overall idea of having clashing ideologies was an excellent just idea to go for Season 2 in continuing on what was built upon in Season 1, which I got to give the new showrunners just a tip of the hat for, because they kept things going and they kept building off all the elements that were introduced in Season 1 and stayed true to them and stayed true to the affirmation of who Daredevil is right now in his career and in his life and in this show, and having him clash with different characters and seeing him clash between Punisher and Elektra is just really, really captivating. Two people who are influencing his life and where he is right now, and he's very fragile, and seeing how all these elements come together and start to break apart and tear apart his own personal life is really, really interesting. Some of the best moments of this entire season is just watching Jon Bernthal and Charlie Cox just talk. Just them talking is just something really captivating. And the fact that they were just able to simply do that and keep my attention is something that is not to be overlooked in this season. And also, I'd have to say that his relationship with the characters of Foggy Nelson and Karen Page have really grown this season. I wasn't really a big fan of Karen Page or Foggy last season, but what they do in this season is try to have everyone go their separate ways and try to have characters find out who they are as individuals, and seeing Karen come into her own and become more strong stronger in her own ideologies and who she wants to be and the type of person that she wants to be across the world is really good and really fascinating. And seeing Foggy stand on his own 2 feet without Matt Murdock is really great too, because it's just one of those things where you read the comic books, you read Daredevil, and you're just like, Foggy Nelson's just, he's Foggy. But seeing how imperative he was in the world that they created was really, really interesting. And being able to see Foggy adapted properly and even more so this season was really, really excellent. So I got to give it up for the entire cast this season. I think they did a very great job at delivering the performances. But I got to say, John Bernthal as the Punisher and Elektra were truly the standouts this season. But I also have to say that you cannot overlook Charlie Cox's performance in this season, because he is something phenomenal, and that he is the anchor of this show and the character we go to, and the performance he gives is very understated and just very, very captivating. But now, moving into the negatives, they're also mostly character driven and also some issues with the plot points. So getting to the character issues I have, even though characters like Foggy and Karen are becoming more independent this season, and that's really enjoyable to watch, there's just certain aspects about how Karen can just go from all these different crime scenes to investigations without having a badge or without being a lawyer. It's just like, it kind of pushes the realm of disbelief a bit. And also, I'd have to say that Foggy and the Nelson and Murdoch law firm acts as like social justice warriors, in which case where it's like, if their clients are being done wrong by the system or things of that nature, they're going to do their best to probably more than likely take the case pro bono, because they want to do it just because it's the right thing to do. And if that's the way you're going to operate, you can't have a character like Foggy Nelson have him be like, oh, well, just because I don't agree with what this person did, well, I don't want to defend him, and be very wishy-washy about your client because you chose to defend this person. And I'm not going to give away who that person is in the season, but he's very wishy-washy on a certain client that he has in the season. And I found that very frustrating, because I feel like you can't pick and choose who you really want to defend after taking the case and let that influence your performance. But either way, those are really the only character issues I have. And with some minor, and I also had issues with the Hand as well, the new criminal element that was introduced. When they introduce, and this also ties into plot points, but when they introduced the concept of the Hand and the mysticism of the Marvel Netflix universe and all the magical elements, they just mention these elements, but then they don't do anything about it. They never resolve it. They never leave it as a, next time we got to go after this thing and figure out what this is. And there are people who clearly have the answers to the questions we have, but they just choose not to give it to us in this season. And it's very frustrating, because it'd be different if we had questions from season 1 that were being answered in season 2, but then those answers raise new questions. And that's the fun part of mysteries and the things that we enjoy about watching our shows. But the problem is, certain plot points in season 1 are never answered. Certain questions are never answered, mostly involving the mystical elements. And then they carry over to season 2, introduce more questions, but still don't answer those. And because of that, it becomes frustrating as a viewer, because you're trying to put together certain pieces and plot points that they don't reveal until the very end of the show. And even then, it still doesn't connect, because they still don't give you any answers. So things like that I found very frustrating, and those plot points don't really mesh at the end, and those issues don't feel resolved, because I feel like every Marvel Netflix show so far has had the issue of, it just has too many episodes. I think if they just had 2 or 3 episodes less to work with in their seasons, they could be more focused and focus on delivering a more cohesive and a concrete, definitive ending for their season, and have the bows wrap much nicer. Because I feel like even when you look at Jessica Jones or Daredevil season 1, you have this nice package they've been wrapping for you. You enjoyed it. It's been great. You're about to take home a meal. But then at the very end, it's just, they're like, we don't know how to wrap, so we're just gonna get this staple gun and just leave your ribbon on there. And you're just like, it's so rudely done, not necessarily rudely, but just crudely done. And the ending to the last few episodes just feels very off and very underwhelming, and that's very unfortunate for what was a very, very strong season. But the ending for me just did not deliver because they don't know how to properly wrap up the plot points that they've been extending for far too long. But those are really my only issues with the season. Just the hand just did not work for me, and all the mystical elements that they introduced but never explain, and certain character motivations and just the way certain characters developed, I just didn't like. And there are certain characters I want to get into about their motivations and how it changes over the course of the season, but I can't get into it right now because I wanted this to be a spoiler-free review. And so because of that, I want to tell you guys that I will be doing a full spoiler review in what I'm announcing right now as the Geek Speak Nation podcast. I'd like to say that'd be coming to you next Tuesday, but whenever I do officially get the date for that, I will be doing a full spoiler discussion about season 2 of Daredevil, so we can get more in depth about those characters and about those plot points that kind of irked me a little bit. But overall, I really enjoyed the season. Loved the Punisher, loved Elektra, loved Daredevil. They did a really great job in keeping up what Stephen DeKnight did in season 1, and I'm looking forward to what they do in season 3, and hope that they are able to tie everything together with Luke Cage and Iron Fist and get us to the Defenders. Come on, man, quit pushing it back, because I am ready for it. I'm ready to see all these characters come together because I love the world that they're building in the Marvel Netflix series. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, you're probably like, Daniel, you rambled on for too long. Well, gosh darn it, here's your score of 9 out of 10. So, have you seen Marvel's Daredevil Season 2? Let me know what you thought of it in the comment sections down below. Remember, no spoilers. The spoiler-filled review will be coming very, very soon, but just overall general feelings and thoughts. Because I know some people actually had an issue with this season, even though I really enjoyed it and feel like they really elevated things this season with their characters, with the action, and everything else involved. So let me know in the comment sections down below. And also, if you like my review, hit that like button while you're down there and subscribe to become a part of the Geek Nation. Because remember, ladies and gentlemen, we're on our way to 1,000 subscribers, and guys, we are almost there. So thank you guys so much for all the support you've given me. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys thought of this season. And guys, stay tuned for the Geek Speak Nation podcast and the return of the Cinemaniacs podcast. And thanks. I've been Daniel, and don't forget to get geeky.